A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express Papers Chandigarh edition. Now, today's newspaper is predominantly focusing on two issues. So, one is the recent demise of MS Swaminathan, the person responsible for bringing in Green Revolution to India. Right, so that is one thing. The journey of bringing in Green Revolution to India, that is one theme. The second theme is bringing in sustainable agriculture, sustainable farming practices. Right, so these are the two main themes. Okay, now I would like to add one more thing, that is, there is one National Commission on Farmers which was chaired by MS Swaminathan. It is also referred to as MS Swaminathan report. And this report has it covers almost every aspect which concerns farm sector or agriculture: farmer suicides, rural distress, land reforms, irrigation, farm insurance, everything. So if whenever you are writing an answer concerning the agriculture sector, you can quote the Swaminathan report. And therefore, this is the reason why today morning I shared this PDF with you on the Telegram. So I hope you have found it. Okay. Moving on, we have the editorial and the opinion section. So this again repeats the gender gap in healthcare. Besides it, there is a short article on Sardar Bhagat Singh. Yeah, right. Okay. Now here we don't get much content, but obviously this is a very important theme for modern history. So separately we'll have to do it. Now this article on this was about reservation of women in politics and how this could plug supply gaps of women in workforce. So this is a very, very important theme because it is linking to one is women in politics and how it will have positive effect on the workforce. And by that logic, I could also say how it could have positive effect on the women in healthcare. So this is a very, very important theme. One is it covers GS1, the women sector, right? So in that light, this is important topic. Plus two different aspects are linked together. So the way UPSC frames questions. Okay. Then we have one explained section. 2-3 topics are covered, but the most important was concerning Maldives. Maldives is south of the 8-degree channel, something which has been asked in the prelims. Okay. So Maldives, why this is strategically important, that we will cover. And then we will hear about the political leaders, how the shift affects India. And lastly, the recent developments in elections. So elections are going on basically. So how does it affect India? Then we have the international section and the economy section. So it's just these news that I have mentioned, these are more important. Now, before going ahead, I want to tell you that we have a mentorship course, right? So most of the preparation of UPSC can be done easily by all of you, that can be done, but I can help you save your time. So anything you want, it will be available. Plus we'll have recorded lectures also. So at rupees 6,000 plus answer writing evaluation, anything you say would be available. Okay, moving on. So the first article is Evergreen Revolution. So this is concerning MS Swaminathan and his journey of bringing in Green Revolution to India. And according to Norman Barlow, the person with whom he associated, he also says that he's the person responsible for bringing in Green Revolution to Asia. Okay, so let's go through this journey first. So first of all, what is Green Revolution? Green Revolution was a way of increasing productivity in the farm sector. And this was done by bringing in high-yielding variety of seeds. High-yielding means which have more production per acre of land. Right, so that was there. Now for this, it was required that these were required fertilizers plus use of pesticides as well. Okay, so this he brought in, and because of this, we were having food security in the country. Now, how did this start? In Japan, there was a wheat geneticist, Hitoshi Kihara. He developed a variety of wheat known as Norin. right? So he developed a high yielding variety of wheat known as Norin. Okay. Later in 1940s, there was a person, American, known as Orwell Vogel. So he used Norin 10 in America, US. Swaminathan approached him. He said that, see, you give me this high yielding variety of wheat for India. He says, I have no issue in giving you seeds, but the problem is that these seeds are more suitable for Japanese or the US climate. It is a bit temperate. In India, the climate is tropical, the heat is more, so this will not work in the Indian conditions. He suggested, why don't you talk to Norman Borlaug? Okay. Now, Norman Borlaug, he was already working on Norin 10 and he bred this with Mexican variety of wheat. He bred this with the Mexican variety. Mexico is a tropical nation. And he developed Sonaro 64 and Lerma Rojo 64. MS Swaminathan said that please give me this variety of seeds for India, and he agreed for this. But he said first we need to know the climatic conditions. Whatever his conditions were, that was met, and he said that okay, fine, these seeds could be given to India. Okay. Now, when these seeds were given to India, some modifications were made. They were indigenized. And we have two varieties of wheat, Sonalika and Kalyan Sona. You'll find pre-based questions like here, with like, right? So these were varieties of wheat which MS Swaminathan introduced. So Sonalika and Kalyan Sona. This is nothing but it's actually these seeds. Some modification is made for Indian climate. Okay, so he planted these seeds, and but the government right now had not pushed for this. But unfortunately for India, in 1965-66, right? So this 66-67, you may say, this was a very bad drought year, and there was a concern about food security. This forced India to seek food import of wheat and the poor quality of wheat known as PL from USA under the PL 480 program. So you may have heard about this PL 480 program. Plus India had to make some concessions. So at this time, India realized that we seriously need to do something to bring in food security. And this time it was decided that more of these seeds, Sonaro 64 and Lerma Roja 64, should be imported and planted in India. And with this, as we say, the rest is history, the Green Revolution started. So Indian government imported seeds, Green Revolution starts. Now with the start of Green Revolution, MS Swaminathan was concerned. He said, okay, fine, food security has been achieved, but he was concerned. He says he was concerned with the adverse effects. So all these are mentioned over here. He said that places where Green Revolution is taking place, it is leading to springing up of deserts, or we can say desertification. Why? Because this variety of wheat required more of water. So more groundwater had to be extracted. So it was leading to desertification. It was leading to groundwater depletion. So more aridity was starting. In fact, he predicted that this will happen. And more pesticide was also required for this. Pesticide ultimately leads to toxicity. In fact, now Punjab region particularly is known as the cancer belt. Right? So these were the concerns that he had expressed. So he says we need this, but we need to have more scientific approach towards farming. Okay, right. So this was the journey of Green Revolution, and he had raised concern with Green Revolution, and he wanted more sustainability. So rather than Green Revolution, he was more inclined for Evergreen Evolution. Evergreen Evolution indicates the emphasis on sustainability with food security. These articles I was just reading. It's Chandigarh news, so I was interested. Okay, this is about the heart ailments. So it is a World Heart Day, so it tells us just key points I'm covering. 1/4 of the patients in PGI is considered as a super specialty hospital equivalent of AIMS. So for 1/4 are below 50 years. So we are seeing higher incidence of youth getting affected by heart ailments, and this is a matter of concern. So this you may take it as a theme for your mains answer writing so that you can do what needs to be done. Non-communicable diseases are on the rise. So in that regard, you can think. After the age of 40, we must get evaluated for heart disease on a regular basis. Right. Okay. Yesterday we covered that there were some issues with the farm sector, right? The farmers going to the mandi, they're not able to sell their crops. Hardly any storage, so warehousing did not happen. So there was the private players were not paying, not even paying the MSP amount. They were paying much less than that. So there were certain issues that were there yesterday. Plus, insurance companies are not, whatever losses the farmer has borne because of the climate issues. So insurance companies are not compensating. So yesterday we covered those things. So today we hear about protesting farmers doing this 3-day rail roko. So those issues are now farm protest. These are coming up today. And one of this is 50-day, it also talks about legal guarantee for MSP, and MSP should be at 50% of the weighted cost of agriculture. The formula was given by MS Swaminathan, NS, National Commission of Farmers, NCF. So heart health. This is a very serious issue. Okay. So ever green revolution, right? So this is there. Here is a mention of Kalyan Sona and Sonalika. This was not mentioned on the front page news. Man of science and humanity. So again, same thing is repeated. I would rather wish for you to focus over here. Challenge is to honor MS Swaminathan's legacy, improve farmers' profitability in times of climate crisis. So this may be a theme. Previously, pre-2022, we would say doubling farmers' income, right? So what needs to be done? Same things are there, just here and there, changes are there. Overall pointers are still same. So how can farmers' profitability be improved? Keeping in mind the principles of sustainability and also unpredictable weather environments. Agriculture is dependent on monsoon, so the vagaries of monsoon, the unpredictability. So in that regard, how can we move towards a sustainable model? So one is that monsoon cycles. We can also talk about rising aridity, right? So that aspect may also be covered. So here you can refer to the points from Swaminathan Commission report. So I would just suggest this. Otherwise, we have climate smart agriculture, zero budget natural farming. So all those points are also there. But I want you to read this. Moving towards micro irrigation, more crop per drop. In fact, this was given by him only. Next article. A preventable toll. This is about the recent Lancet report on cancer, which it said that. So the reason I'm doing this is very important topic, and I keep doing this and keep mentioning these points because by mentioning, and you should also do this, by mentioning, what happens is your mains ready. In short span of time you can think and you can write. So, and we tend to remember those things which we keep repeating. Okay. So what did the Lancet report say? So Lancet report was basically observing the cancer incidence vis-a-vis women across the world. And with reference to India, it found that 6.9 million deaths that were happening, which is about 2/3 of the cancer-related deaths, they were of women. And 6.9 million deaths could have been prevented. Okay, so just let me correct. 2/3 of the cancer deaths, women, and 6.9 million of these deaths were preventable. So some of them were preventable, and some of this cancer was treatable. 1/3 of this cancer was treatable. So, but this was treatable if the woman knew about the cancer and timely screening and diagnosis was done. So what doctors say is that the patient comes when they are in the last stages of cancer. That is when they get to know about the cancer. If screening and diagnosis was done much earlier, we could have treated this cancer at the start itself or at the inception itself. So here what we're seeing is that cancer-related deaths, the cancer-related burden is more on women as compared to the male. Almost everybody gets affected, but the burden on or the seeking of the health care for the woman is less as compared to the male. It reflects a gender dimension to healthcare. Okay, and most of it could have been averted if timely diagnosis was done. So what is stopping it? The gender dimension now. So one is lack of knowledge. I just wrote what came to my mind. Now I'm just improvising. So one is lack of knowledge, awareness about cancer. Second is lack of autonomy or lack of decision-making power, especially when it comes to healthcare. One could be that obviously consultation with doctor is fairly expensive plus medication. So we tend to avoid it. And within the household, women who, especially those who are not earning, they are likely to bear the brunt. So they're going to be more negligence, less priority suppose would be given to them. So lack of autonomy, lack of decision-making power with reference to healthcare. Okay. Lack of care-seeking behavior amongst the women. And one major reason is the high cost and high out-of-pocket expenditure with healthcare domain. These points are not said, but we all know this reality. Even for a bit middle income, slightly better off, they are wary of going to the doctors. We see it with the parents also, we see it with ourselves also, we tend to avoid. So, but if there was knowledge, there was awareness about the risk of cancer, maybe we would have gone to the doctor. Okay, next. Let's say somebody goes to the doctor as well, right? But there is lack of accessibility of cancer care, especially at primary healthcare domain. Right. Obviously, you will not go to the super specialist at the very start. You will not go. So you will go to the primary healthcare, at least in the poorer sections. So primary healthcare, you will go to the nearest, and that doctor should recommend that, okay, fine, there is a possibility of cancer. Get it checked from a senior doctor. But there is hardly any doctor who, the facilities are not there, plus the availability of doctors. So that is a matter of concern. And even if there is a doctor, they are not so well trained or sensitized about the issue of cancer. So there was a case study given where a woman approached the doctor and the doctor said that she had some headache. She actually had brain cancer. So they said that it's a problem with your eyes. So there is actually lack of sensitization, right? So the healthcare professionals should be sensitized on that domain. More training, more work needs to be given so that the existing infra can also deal with the screening and diagnosis for cancer. So these are the points. 5 points is good enough to write your answers. Good enough. Okay, so that's it actually. And yes, one more point is underrepresentation of women in the oncology workforce as leaders and decision makers. Next article. This is about Bhagat Singh. As I said, yesterday was the birthday of Bhagat Singh. So Bhagat Singh, we all know he was the famous revolutionary freedom fighter. But importantly, he was not a mere freedom fighter. He had a vision for the nation. Okay, fine, we assassinate so and so, we assassinate Saunders, we assassinate so and so person. We use the means of arms. Fine, that was his method. But besides this, it was not just to eradicate the British rule. Obviously, everybody wanted to eradicate the British rule. It was not merely to eradicate British rule, it was to bring in a future for India which is premised on equality, where everybody is equal, where there is no oppression, where there is no communalism, there is no untouchability, casteism. So he had a vision. In fact, it is this thing that makes, as I always say, the second phase of revolutionary movement. It was this difference that differentiates or distinguishes the first phase of freedom movement, revolutionary fighters, from the second phase. And Bhagat Singh's example is the classic case for this. Okay, now how do we know about a social reform thing? So Bhagat Singh penned two essays. Two essays have been referred to. So one is Vishwa Prem and other is Why I Am an Atheist. And the two themes had this in common. He was concerned about communalism, hatred, untouchability, right? So he refers to this as Vishwa Bandhuta. So poverty, untouchability, and casteism. And he also raised concern about his contemporary political leaders that they were not serious about addressing the issue of untouchability, addressing casteism, etc. Now, what I want you to do is, I refer to this to know from where is Vishwa Prem, taken, so all that. But what I want you to do is, I want you to read briefly about Bhagat Singh, briefly, what were his achievements. In fact, with this Bing, I got all these points also. So what was his achievements? What was his works, ideas? So that can be asked in the mains paper, GS1. Next one, Parliament to workplace. That is the increased political representation of women. How? Women's Reservation Bill, which says 1/3 of the seats would be reserved for women. So this can help loosen supply side constraints to women's labor force participation. Comment. So what I did was today, honestly, I first wrote these points. And then I tallied with what is written in this article. So one that is given in green, this one I missed, but other than that, all of it was there. Okay, and I gave you this homework also. I just shared this much of the image on the Telegram and I said comment on this, 200 words. So yes, so when you are addressing such a question, so first of all, you should have the facts ready, right? So women's labor force participation. So this fact you should have, where are we on this regard as compared to the world? I have shared with you the PIB. So first of all, let me tell you what is the labor force participation rate. So I've shared with you this one. Okay. Sometimes you don't get, okay, I'll just write it down only. So those who are employed, right, divided by those who are in the working age group and willing to get employed. So this includes the unemployed as well as the employed. So working age population who are looking for employment. So those who are employed divided by those who are in the working age group looking for employment. Okay, so that is labor force participation rate. Now, if somebody says women's labor force participation rate, so you can add women, those women who are employed, and divided by women in the working age group, right, who are seeking, who are in the workforce, and those who are unemployed, seeking employment. Right. So that is the basic thing. If somebody says male, so replace this with male. Okay. So women's labor force participation. So actually there are different facts to this. So okay, according to the governments, the NSO, which releases the periodic labor force survey, which in turn releases the labor force participation. So according to this, it is at 30%, right? So 30% is the labor force participation rate. While according to the CMIE, it is much, much, much lower. In any case, let's say we refer to this 30% fact also. This is much lesser than the global average, which is at around 47%. So the labor force participation rate is much lesser in India. And by very logic, also 50% of the population is women, right? And only 30% is participating. Okay, either way you can pitch it. So this is there. Now, what are the supply side constraints? Why do women not join the workforce? What is the gender dimension to this? So one major issue is patriarchy. patriarchy. And patriarchy basically means gender-defined roles for man and woman. So what are the gender-defined roles for man and woman? So man is supposed to work, provide for the family, right? So that's the main thing. And while women should be in the care sector, she should look after the family, look after the household. So that is the woman's job, as decided by the, this is the norm, according the social norm, according to which the society functions. So that is the number one issue, that the gender defined roles for man and woman. So this is there. Now let's say woman also works. So in that case, it may be the fact that the middle class where it is required, but here the burden on women is much more because she has to look after the household work as well. Okay, so patriarchy. Next is concerns regarding safety. For example, unwillingness of the parents to send the woman outside because there is a concern of safety. There is bullying, there is workplace harassment, right? So certain sectors, parents are not at all happy or sending their child, especially the girl child, to a different city. So concerns regarding safety. Next, education. And again, this is with reference to patriarchy. The male child is given preference, especially in a household where income constraints are there. So male child is given more preference as compared to the girl child. So the education, the girls suffer. Then early marriage. So that again, marrying of the girls at an earlier age. So this again affects their education plus employment opportunities. So, and because of this, the participation rate falls down. And one more point is transport infrastructure or the physical mobility of the women. So this is affected by a poor transport infrastructure, public transport infrastructure. So these are the basic concerns. Now, how does political representation help address supply side constraints? So supply side is women itself, they're not willing to come. Maybe there is demand is fine, but women itself are unwilling to join the workforce. So how will this change with more representation of women in politics? So one is when we have political leaders who are women. So women will have a role in lawmaking. What is the parliament and the state legislatures do? They make laws. So we should see a gender perspective in lawmaking. So gender related aspects, the political leaders who will come, obviously they are coming from the society. They are aware of their own challenges. So gender perspective shall come in lawmaking. Besides, some of them will become ministers, or some of them in their capacities will hold the government accountable. Right. So we will see gender sensitivity in governance as well. So this is very, very important. Second, when the society sees that women are emerging as the leaders, the political leaders, as the bosses, so they become the role models. Right. And this should open the mindset of the society for making women go outside, we're looking for work opportunities, all that, role models. And lastly, I would say there are systemic biases, discrimination, etc. So with women in leadership, this shall be addressed. At least work should start in that process. Okay. Next article, opinion section, shrinking the safety net. This is about the NREGA. NREGA is referred to as the safety net. So what is NREGA? NREGA provides for unskilled labor work, right? This is especially resorted to in case when the farm income for farmers, when income from farm is not coming up, so they can enroll in NREGA work, the unskilled labor work. From there, here they can earn income. So this is a safety net for the farmers. So if they're from the farms, the income is not coming, or if they're working as agricultural laborer, money is not coming, so they can enroll with the government under NREGA. So this is a safety net, and government resorts to it. For example, during the COVID times or during the drought years, the government increased the budgets for NREGA. Okay. However, in the recent times, and this is a drought year, by the way, we see cuts in NREGA budget. In fact, I would say that sometimes the budget is increased but on ground, the payments are not made, timely payments are not made to the workers, and these are the poorest. The people who require unskilled work are amongst the poorer sections of the population. So delays in payments, that is also an issue. Further, Aadhaar based, the government has automated the payment, but the payment is linked to Aadhaar. This is because there are leakages take place, there is corruption. So directly pay money to the beneficiary's account. But there are issues with the Aadhaar based payment systems. So because of this, the payments are denied. So this government fails to acknowledge this. So this is the basic thing. Now what I want you to, we can do is we can make a note on NREGA, the positives and the concerns which need to be addressed. An assessment of NREGA has been there for some decades now, at least to about a 2-decade period. So that one. Again, MS Swaminathan writes, discourage free power to tackle groundwater, very important issue. So it's all scattered today, news articles. Now we come to the explained section. I hope you know this news. India's highest film honor, Dada Phalke Award, that is there, right? Dada Saheb Phalke Award, for lifetime achievement in the movie sector. So for this, it is given. Now coming to this news, Maldives elections are taking place. How is it of concerns to India? But for us to know this, first of all, we should know what is the significance of Maldives for India. Maldives is located south of the 8-degree channel. And I keep saying this because this was asked in the prelims. And such facts can be asked. So every time you study something, look closely at the physical map. Okay, so south of the 8-degree channel, we have the Maldives in the western coast. So group of islands are there, which is known as Maldives, with its capital as Malé. Okay, so in the Indian Ocean region, now you can imagine this place is very important, very critical. So one is, it is part of the sea lanes of communication, right? The most of the trade goes from China to the West Asia, to India also. So the sea lanes of communication passes through this. So if somebody controls this, by that logic, one may be controlling this as well. So this is very important, sea lanes of communication. Besides, this group of islands is in close proximity to India. Now China, as part of its string of pearls doctrine, would like to have it port development, specifically military nature, ports of military nature or naval nature around India. So this would be a national security risk for India if we have Chinese presence over here. So proximity to India, China, so we are concerned with this. Okay, so China also is looking at having more access to Maldives. So that one is the naval presence, the controlling of the sea lanes of communication, and one more important thing which is not mentioned here is Maldives exclusive economic zone, right? So Maldives, all the small island nations, but 200 kilometers in the vicinity will belong to Maldives. So this region, the seabed actually these days, with the improved mining techniques, we can get all these minerals, etc. So both India as well as China are inclined towards it. And one more thing I would like to add is that India, it has the stream of making Indian Ocean as the blue water navy. Indian Navy as the blue water navy. So this was coined during the time of Jawaharlal Nehru. So indicating that India would provide the next security architecture for the Indian Ocean region. India sees the Indian Ocean region as its own backyard. Chinese presence is not liked by India, right? So these are the things. Okay, now for India to fulfill its objectives and China to fulfill its objectives, both are looking at developmental initiatives in these two countries and form their public opinion. So India has provided them measles vaccines. When the tsunami happened, they provided aid. when there was water crisis in Mali in 2014, they provided. So all those things, land reclamation, and China is also doing it. Okay, so that is one. The other thing is, what if you can control, or if the political leader, the president of Maldives, is your friend? It's close to India or close to China. So if you have a person of your liking, so that will be very, very helpful. Now comes the elections, right? So the issue of elections. So previously there was Abdul Gayoom government who worked closely with India for about 3 decades. So that was his time period, and he belongs to the Maldivian Democratic Party. Now come 2014, 2013, 14, we had Nasheed. I just have the surnames. So Nasheed, who again was from the Maldivian Democratic Party, which is deemed to be close to India. Now, Nasheed was some grounds corruption regarding he was expelled, and we had the next president as Yamin. Yamin was seen as pro-China and anti-India, literally anti-India. In fact, there was some assassination bid also, and there was an allegation made that India had attempted it. Okay. Yamin belongs to the Progressive Party of Maldives. So there are two main political parties: Maldives Democratic Party, which is deemed to be close to India, while Progressive Party of Maldives, which is pro-China, and China says India out. So China is running India out campaign through them, that Indian presence should not be there. Okay. Then Yamin also, for some grounds, he was expelled. And then we had the next president, Soli, who belonged to the MDP. Right, Soli. And during the time of Yamin, a lot of pro-China measures were done. It antagonized, it upsetted India. So those were reversed. Those measures, pro-China measures, were reversed. We had Soli now. Now his term is coming to an end. Now we have an election taking place, and in Maldives they have the proportional representation by single transferable vote. They have the French version of this arrangement. So elections are taking place, and the person who gets 50% and more votes wins. So at the moment there are these two leaders, Soli and Mizu. Mizu is from Progressive Party, while Soli is from Democratic Party. Soli won about 39% of the votes, while Mizo won 46%. Now a next round would take place so that one of the leaders gets more than 50% of the votes. So Soli is fine, but Mizo, going by his speeches, he's focusing on the pro-China statements plus India out campaign. Right, so it is India is concerned that if Mizo comes, he will go on the path of Yamin. In fact, he was working closely with Yamin. Soli was working with Nasheed, and Nasheed was working with Gayoom. So that is how this is of concern to India. Next, we come to the international news. So again, we are hearing about the shutdown in the US. So very briefly, US has this Congress. It is the legislature. The Congress comprises of the House. It is like India's Lok Sabha. And then they have the Senate, which is like the Rajya Sabha. Both are dominated by the Republican Party. So Republican Party is saying that we will not support the budget, and if the budget is not approved, then in that case the government will shut down. However, in the intermediate, some stopgap measure can be taken so that for short period of time some money or funding can be provided. So that is being discussed, that is being negotiated between the US government, US executive, which is President Biden. Biden belongs to the Democratic Party, Democrats, while at the moment the House and the Senate are dominated by the Republicans. Taiwan reveals its first locally built submarine. Okay. Next is the economy section. Previously we heard about online e-gaming, etc. So that will now, I think they had 18% tax. Now this will be at 28% tax. So GST Council GST Council, which comprises of the union and the representatives of the state. So they make decisions on the GST. So what this news article is saying is that online gaming, etc., there will be a 28% tax. So that tax will be increased. And for that purpose, the states have to pass laws. So this I honestly did not know. I thought GST Council decides the rates and that is final. So for the changing of the law, the state legislatures also have to approve. So it is just akin to a constitutional amendment act provided for in Article 368 of the Constitution. So it says center has already done so. Now about all states yet to pass laws. So I would say that more than 50% of the states have to pass laws. If they cannot pass laws, then they can pass ordinance. So this has to be done. Center has already done it. Now it is the turn of the states. OMCs, oil marketing companies, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, Indian Oil. So they are incurring under recoveries of rupees 7 liter on petrol diesel sales. What does this mean? You see the crude prices are increasing. Crude prices are increasing. While the price at which Hindustan OMCs are selling, OMCs buy crude, they refine it, and they eventually sell it to us, the consumers. So this price is not going up while the raw material cost is increasing. And as a result of this, they are making a loss of rupees 7 per liter on petrol and diesel sales. Simple. Okay. The difference between retail price and international price of the fuel. So yes, so what does this indicate? This indicates that logically the fuel price burden should be transferred to the consumer. Maybe due to election year, this may not happen, right? If this would be a significant hike, so this may not happen. So this means their financial health will get affected, compromised, or at least we can say that the fuel prices shall not come down also. The oil prices hike spoils market mood. The VIX rises by 11%. What is VIX? VIX is a volatility index. It is a measure of expected fluctuation. And who has designed it? CBOE. This is one second. Chicago Board Options Exchange. So they released the VIX index. Okay, this I didn't cover, but let's cover shortly. Tackling tax evasion, counterfeiting, key to safeguarding economic stability. First of all, I mean, this is very important topic from GS3 internal security point of view, money laundering, etc. So tax evasion, money laundering, round tripping of black money, plus counterfeiting currency. Okay. So first of all, you should know why is it a risk to economic stability, right? Then what measures are in place to deal with this? Plus, you should be able to define the terms like money laundering and round tripping of black money. Ministry is finalizing, road ministry, his ministry Gadkari's, on civic waste use in road building. So this is very much required. This will be good. So they are finalizing it. So once this comes, then we will have the policy. Right. So this completes our news analysis.